You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today, we're very excited to be here with Jazz Hampton, CEO and General Counsel at TurnSignl. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Very well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on, man. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. I saw what you guys were doing. It's super cool. I can't wait to talk about it here on the Lawyer Stories podcast. And congrats so far, on all your success with TurnSignl.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like it's been forever, but it's just been something like 10 months. So it's been, when you're in the startup world, it goes quick. That's for sure.
Super cool. So before we dive into your story, we featured you yesterday. As of the recording, it is the beginning of August. So this will come out later in the month or early September. But so before we get into your lawyer story, I just want to throw out what TurnSignl is. So It's like this amazing app that offers easy and expert and affordable legal help at the touch of a button. It's an app. It's on your cell phone. So it guides the entire interaction with law enforcement. So we're going to get into that. I definitely have some questions. It's super cool. It's very, cutting edge. So first off, this is Lawyer Stories. So we like to talk about your background a little bit. Tell us where you're from. Where you were born and raised?
Yeah. So I'm born. My name's Jazz Hampton. I was born and raised here in Minnesota. Awesome. I'm from Minneapolis, and I grew up in Minneapolis. I went to undergrad right across the river in St. Paul here in Minnesota, and then law school in Minnesota again. University of St. Thomas for both undergrad and law school. My undergrad degree was actually in computer science. Okay. Which is kind of rare for lawyers, where everyone else's was like poli-sci or English or one of those backgrounds, but I was coming in with a computer science degree, which was unique already, right? And so my law school experience from the beginning seemed a little different than everyone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you could definitely connect the dots a little bit. Being the founder of an app in computer science, did you know you always wanted to do an app sort of thing, even when you were?
No. I think I kind of left. So I was in an internship working at 3M, the Post-its company, but it's a huge organization here in the Twin Cities. And I was working in their web development group, and I was like, I'm not an introvert, and I cannot be designing for the rest of my life. This is not it. And so I applied to law school right then and there and went straight through. And I knew my first 5 years of practice were civil litigation. And I knew that's what I knew I wanted to do. So I played football in college, and I always University of St. Thomas, a D3 school. Actually, we just went D1. Shout out to the Tommies out there.
What position?
I was a free safety.
So you a Vikings fan?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No matter how hard they make it.
I don't want to go too off board, but I did see a question on Twitter today. I'm not on Twitter that much, but it was just what rank wide receiver do you think Justin Jefferson is going to be this year? Out of the rank out of all of the I don't know. Anyway, so that's awesome. All right, we'll talk about that later. So civil lit. So you get out of law school. What was your law school experience like? Tell us what was that all about?
Yeah. So especially coming from a computer science background, everyone was already versed in law. I remember my first day of crim law, I was cold called, and he asked me to give my summary of the case or whatever. And I said, or no, I'm sorry. It was Civ Pro. And I was called on, and I said he was found guilty. And the professor was like, "You're not guilty in civil litigation." And I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing in here. I had no background. I have no lawyers in my family. No one in my family has ever gone to college, let alone.
So when you said he was guilty, was that just something that came out, or was that actually
Yeah, I think in my brain, again, I had no experience in the law. In my brain, if you lost the case, then you were guilty, even in a civil. I don't know what I thought, but I was like, they lost, so they were guilty. And he was like, no, that's not how it works. And so I'm embarrassed from day one, right? And so whatever it took other people like an hour to read in law school, it took me like an hour and a half or two.
Yeah, I feel
But it was just putting in the time, and I was one of those people that had to work a little harder. But I knew that I wanted to get into litigation. Whether it was like mock trial and all of that kind of stuff, that's what would get me interested.
Yeah.
And because again, I guess that's why I mentioned it earlier, why I'm a former athlete, and I always call litigation sports and suits. Like I get to go out there and try to get the win for the team. It's competitive. I want to win. That's why litigation made sense to me. And I did enjoy it. If I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now, I'd be a litigator because I loved it so much.
So you thought like even learning in law school, it was like the same in practice when you got to the firm. It was you thought litigation was similar, like it wasn't too much like just documents and pleadings and all that stuff. Like you still kind of liked it, right? You were there for 5 years.
Yeah. So it was definitely not what I thought it would be. I thought I'd be going to court, maybe like I was like, let's be realistic. Maybe it'll be once a month, and not realizing it's like 3 times a year, maybe,
Right.
And so the first few years were slow. And in my civil litigation, when I first started, I was doing, trucking litigation, some med mal stuff, general insurance defense. And then when I moved to a different firm, I did a little asbestos litigation. And the nature of asbestos litigation, like it's a little formulaic, so they let younger people jump in right away. So I was taking depots right away. I was arguing motions. I was doing the real stuff. So I enjoyed it a lot. And so I was taking depots weekly, or attending them weekly, I should say, and arguing summary judgment motions and dispositive motions. So I loved that, and I wouldn't have left that for almost anything but what I'm doing right now.
Right. So was that at a big firm? Because you were at a big law, right? Like, was that a big firm?
So
how many firms were you at before TurnSignl?
So I started at one firm, which was only about 35 attorneys.
Wow.
And then my second firm was our headquarters was in Minneapolis, or is in Minneapolis. And that's about 15 attorneys, but we had 15 offices. Okay. And there was about 10 to 15 attorneys in each of those offices. So it was 150 attorneys in about 15 states, just like peppered all over the country.
Gotcha.
And so I was at that firm for 4.5 years. And that's where I also, for the last, almost year, I was the director of diversity inclusion. I bifurcated my role doing that.
How did that happen? Like, did they come to you and they ask you about that? And like, what do you have to do in that role?
Yeah. So I was already the chair of the diversity committee within the organization across the 15 states, and I was doing that. But then after George Floyd, I think we all saw like a change in a lot of the way companies and law firms were talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, all of those things, right?
Yep.
And so as we were having those conversations internally, I was talking to the founding partner, the Foley and Mansfield. I was talking to Kyle Mansfield, and I was like, Kyle, like, what kind of work are we doing? How are we going to back up the statement and the work that we say we're doing and trying to show publicly? And we talked for a while, and he's like, you know what? I would love for you to, bifurcate your time and be the director of diversity inclusion, shave some billable hour requirements off and spend some time doing that. So that it was a really good opportunity and a good way to see really what a lot of companies, firms try to do and how it works structurally. But they really stood behind me. Anything really that I wanted to do with that firm from a D&I perspective, Kyle Mansfield really made that happen.
So like, what kind of things did you do as D&I? I'm just really curious, like when you got in that role, how long were you in it before you left?
I think it was only about 7-8 months, or under a year. And most of the stuff, honestly, it's like the pipeline is the pipeline of how many diverse people you can get in the building, right?
Yeah.
And what you can hold, the retention rate is goal number 2, right? So getting them in and retaining diversity. And so it was really working on how to, like, from the ground up, set a structure up that actively work to get diversity. If you don't try hard to get it, you won't retain diversity or get new diverse lawyers into your firm, especially if you're a mid-sized firm, right? If you're a lawyer of talent, and you're diverse, then big law firms are going to come and try to pick those lawyers. And it seems like all the diverse lawyers, especially in Minnesota, where diversity isn't as prevalent as it is, in other states around the country. There's not that many, and the big firms, the Dorsey, Whitney's, the Faegre, Baker Daniels, those firms take all of the talented people of color. It feels like sometimes because they can pay a lot more. Wow. I have student loans to pay back, so.
Yeah, no, I feel that it's
excuse
me, it's an uphill battle. So like, All right. So how long you were there? You did 8 or 9 months as diversity director of diversity inclusion. So like, and you were also an attorney at the time.
Yep.
And then like were you teaching as an adjunct professor too? Like where were you doing that?
Yeah, all right. And I had two kids at the time. It was a busy
Like,
time. So the director of diversity inclusion stuff started around March of 2020. And then I didn't start teaching until September of 2020. So
okay.
I was doing all three at one point at the same time, which was a lot. But I love being an adjunct professor. I taught a legal writing class this past year. And I loved it so much because I felt like I could talk to the students, not like I wasn't grandstanding or pretending I was the smartest person in the world. I was like, hey, I think in my first legal writing class, I had a C+ or a B-.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very good. Let me tell you how you can grow and become a better writer, though.
Right.
And I can show you, even if you're struggling here at the beginning, which some of my students did, let me show you that, it doesn't mean your career is done. I had a B- or C+ that first semester when I was in law school, and I was successful, and I'm at a great firm now. Right. So don't let it discourage you too much.
Right. So for sure. So, okay. So then this is like, what we're waiting to hear about is, besides obviously what you explained, but like, tell me about like how you started thinking of TurnSignl and like what that moment was like. I know obviously we had a lot of stuff happen in the US that was awful. And I think as I read about, your story more, like, I think that's kind of what like prompted you to start TurnSignl. So tell me about like, give us the background, like the moment you decided to do it, and like your process.
Yeah. So timeline wise, Philando Castile was killed. I think it was just 5 years ago here in the Twin Cities. And that was like, we saw Michael Brown and all of the others, but Philando was here in our backyard, like miles away from where I went to college and grew up. And that was tough. So I was at all the marches and the visuals and all of those things. Right. And I was just trying to raise awareness and push for change. But I would say I was trying to push others, I'd say, for change. So then George Floyd occurs, right? Now I'm becoming the director of diversity inclusion. I'm working in the community for people who are out there, trying to protest and trying to help all of those things. I attend the protest. I don't know if it was national news, but there was a protest where a semi truck drove like through a crowd of people here in Minneapolis after George Floyd. Like my wife and I were on that bridge and we're running like during that, right? I'm at all of these things. And I'm like, but wait, like who else am I trying to encourage to make a change? Like I'm a Black lawyer from this city.
Yep.
Like, what am I doing though? Right. Like, how can I be a part of the change rather than just civil litigation on behalf of Fortune 5 companies? Right.
Right.
And at that time, my two co-founders, who are two Black men here from the Twin Cities, one I went to college with, we played football together. He had a marketing degree, then went on to get his MBA. Sony Electronics was the company he was at that he left. The other was accounting major from here in the Twin Cities. And those two have been best friends since they're 4 years old. So he was an accounting major, went on to get his MBA. And they called me and they're like, hey, Jazz, I know we've been thinking about what we can do. We're coming up with this idea and we want to have a lawyer in the car with people. And what does that look like? And so they're asking me a lot of questions.
They want to have a lawyer in the car. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they want to have a lawyer in the car during these situations, right?
Wow.
So we see Philando, we see George Floyd, who was, people often think about him being on the sidewalk at the end, but that started in a car. He was in the car and they pulled him out and brought him across the street, right, to the police car.
Yeah.
And they're like, what can we do to help the people who are in the car in this situation? And they're like, we want to put a lawyer. We're thinking put a lawyer on the phone. And they're like, can we FaceTime them? And if we start a company and we're doing it, what does it look like? And I immediately just became a lawyer. And I'm sure like everyone who's listening or watching this right now is like thinking the same things. And I was like, oh, guys, you aren't even thinking about everything. I was like, what about pass-through liability? What about PR rules? What about, and I'm running through it all. And they're like, Jazz, you have to leave your firm and come say all of that every day and help us work through this.
Right.
And so, I sat down with my wife and I was like, do you think we can do this? Is this something are you comfortable with me doing it? And thankfully, she was gracious enough to let me take the leap of faith and leave my, great job that I, partner track in the next 2-3 years.
Wow.
To start this with Mike and Andre. And so,
that's a good woman.
Yeah. And she's like, you're on my health insurance already. Go ahead. So, and the day, funny enough, the day that I put in my 2 weeks notice was the day we found out we were pregnant with our third. And she was like, we're already here, whatever, let's go.
Wow.
So it was a crazy week, at least.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, go back through some of those things that they were asking you about TurnSignl. Like, how does that work? Like with the legality, like being in the car and like, grabbing your phone. So like, I'm kind of interested in like a fact. I have other questions, but this is kind of just thinking it through. Like, how does that work? Like, take us through a fact pattern with it.
Yeah, so I think the best way I explain it to folks, and I hopefully we encourage everyone who's driving to have their phone mounted in whatever way. Just like every Uber driver nowadays has their phone mounted, we're hoping every TurnSignl driver has their phone mounted, so that can eliminate all of those questions, right? Okay. So it's mounted and you get pulled over. So
they should know to mount if they have TurnSignl as an app, they should know, like, because TurnSignl should be like a big deal on their phone. Because it really will help them. So if you're a TurnSignl user, you should mount your phone. Just like if you're, an Uber driver, like mount your phone, right? Okay.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and for all intents and purposes, like it's the thing you should do, even if you don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I don't believe that people don't use their phone. I know I have used my phone while driving.
Yeah. Well,
and so just try to be safe about it.
I put mine on like the passenger seat. Sometimes it tells me it needs a seatbelt, and I'm just like, I don't think it's that much, like, so I have to throw it in like the console. So yeah, I mean, like that. So mount your phone. Okay, so go ahead. So it's mounted. So, you're driving along,
and you can either use voice command. Like you can say, I always mess up when I say it I don't want to say it when my phone's on. You can say, Siri, I'm being pulled over, and boom, instantly starts recording with the front facing camera and starts calling the lawyer.
So you're literally driving, and if you're getting pulled over, you just say, Siri, I'm being pulled over.
Instantly runs.
Wow. Okay.
And so
like you don't even have to press anything. You don't have to press anything. Okay.
Your screen can be locked and it can be a black screen.
Okay. All right.
It'll work. As long as you allow the commands, like if your phone is set to not allow hey Siri,
okay,
whatever.
Got it. Yep.
And so, or you can just press the button and instantaneously the front facing camera starts recording and it starts dialing the lawyers. And now the lawyers that are on our network, which I mean, I've been recruiting the lawyers to be on our platform for the last 4 months. And then I finally hired someone to do it full time, and he's doing an amazing job. His name's Damien. He's just making calls like, hey, here's a wonderful product. Do you want to be a part of our founding member from our program, and say, hey.
Oh yeah, I know Damien. I've been in contact with him. He's doing a great job for you.
Yeah. And so Damien's doing a great job of getting lawyers on the platform. And as soon as we reach the critical mass that we need in the state, I open my computer right here and I press one button, and instantaneously that state is on and live, and anyone can make calls from that state, because that's the important part. It's geolocated. So if you're driving in Minnesota and you hit the button, it's only calling Minnesota attorneys. And the same if you're in Wisconsin, DC or Maryland or Virginia, it's only calling lawyers from the jurisdiction.
So do the lawyers have to like log in for the night or something if they want to work like Uber? Like, how does that work? Like, I know Uber.
So that's actually like one of the most beautiful parts about the app. Hold on one second. I'm going to unplug this. I feel like it's loud. So the question was, how do the lawyers log in? How do they use the app? And that's actually the beautiful part about the app is when you have it on your phone, you're always logged in, and all you have to do is go into the phone and click I'm not available. So this is what it looks like. It tells you how many hours you've been on, and if you just click this, now you're offline and you can start drinking your beer.
And that's the attorney.
That's for the attorneys.
Okay.
So you're at your kid's soccer game, you're drinking a beer, you're hanging out, just go offline. You don't have to be on. You can be on whenever you want. And then when you're available again, click I'm available. And now the calls can come through to your phone.
Wow. And in your jurisdiction.
Correct.
That's amazing. All right.
Yeah. And so it really gives. And so when we're talking to lawyers, we're saying, hey, and they're like, oh, I'm really busy. I don't know if I have time. That's fine. Be on whenever you want. Hell, you could leave it on your phone when you're sleeping. And if it rings, a lot of criminal lawyers are kind of in that headspace already. They're like,
yeah,
I already get calls at 3 a.m. from former clients. And so, but the other thing that we haven't talked about though, is that it's the same abilities for when you get in an accident. So we have a pool of criminal attorneys and a pool of personal injury attorneys.
Okay.
And so if you're in an accident, you hit the secondary button that says I've been in an accident, and now it's pushing you to the pool of PI attorneys who are there.
That's amazing. I was actually thinking about that like just now as we were talking, like if there were other areas that you can, you do that. So like it's all car based, you get pulled over, you get into an accident. Okay. So so instead of calling the police, because I know sometimes they tell you to just like call the police, right? If you're in an accident. Right. You tell Siri in an accident, then what happens?
Same thing. And instantly starts recording the front facing camera. And then the attorney that specializes in personal injury is there for you. So they can say, hey, make sure to get the picture of this, of this part of the car. Hey, make sure to document, the injuries of what you're feeling right now. Make sure you get the other insurance information, or if you should call the police at this time too. Right. And so that's, I don't know, I guess I didn't, I was going to share my screen, but that's fine. That's exactly what the interface looks like, and what the drivers can do. It's just one big button, and at the bottom it said, I've been in an accident. So you can click either one.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. So do they get to follow up with the same attorney after, like when all that happens, or what?
I love when attorneys ask questions because they ask the right ones, right? Like business people never really know. So when I was developing that portion of the flow, another reason why Mike and Andre were like, Jazz, you should leave and join us as we're building this, is a lot of these flow throughs they didn't think of. So at the end, this is what lawyers will love. There's like 3 prompts. It's like, do you want to hang up? Yes. Would you like to speak to an attorney further about this incident? Yes. Would you like to speak to the attorney that you spoke to today on the phone? Yes. Now that attorney has affirmative consent to reach out to the client and doesn't have to wait, and by PR standards can reach out.
That is like, there's so many levels to that, because I feel like the attorney, it's almost like, wow, Jazz, that's like having like a consultation, like beating everybody to the punch with the consultation, right? Like they get it like in the car during the accident, like how much quicker can you get the consultation? And then if somebody's already invested, like talking to the lawyer, they know the facts of the case, they're with them. Obviously or you hope they will likely be comfortable to say yes to all those things and then meet with the attorney, right?
Right. And that's, and that's why Damien's he's having success when you call, because I think lawyers get a lot of calls like, hey, I have this e-discovery software, I have this, I have that. But if I just explain what I just explained to every PI lawyer, my system would be overflowing, right? And the charge for PI lawyers is $50 a month. $50 a month, and you're on. And then here's the other part.
So does it rotate? Like, does it rotate? Is that what happens? Like, meaning like if you have 10, or if you have like however many you have in say the state of Minnesota for PI, like does it rotate between people, or how does that work? Our attorneys were going to get the call.
Oh no. So I don't know if I should be revealing the secret sauce, but it actually calls all of them simultaneously.
Okay.
And it's first come, first serve.
Got it.
Yeah. And that is a speed concern for our drivers, right? So they're like, well, hey, I don't want you to Rolodex me. Don't call attorney A and then call attorney Bailey and then attorney Kovacs and then attorney Derek. They want an attorney quick.
Well, they want an attorney quick, so that's okay. I mean, you're a smart man, Mr. Jazz Hampton. I love it, man. So like, how many states is this going on in? Like, what's going like?
So we launched in Minnesota 2 months ago, and it was like our local beta, so we can see really more than anything. Cool. We had projections of numbers like, okay, how many users means how many users do we have compared to attorneys, and are our numbers right? Do we have to go up or down, etc.? And now we're just full speed ahead. So as soon as I have enough lawyers in the states who we're targeting, and for anyone who's listening who's like, I would love to be on the platform, we're looking at Georgia, Florida, California, Texas, New York, and the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia.
We could talk. I've connected with a lot of lawyers here. If you need some personal injury attorneys, we could definitely set something up and speak about that. I mean, I'm sure you probably have plenty coming to you, but I'd be happy to help you with that. Did you want to share your screen or something, by the way? Because I could probably make you a host if you want.
Oh yeah, whenever. You don't have to do it right away, but yeah, if you have do that. And to your question, while you do that, Absolutely. We're open to you connecting us with anyone that would have interest in being a part of our platform. So I'm going to share the screen. And what I was going to share was just that screen and kind of what it looks like for the users, right? So this is what they see. And so if they hit either of these big buttons, it's gonna call the criminal attorney. And then down here below, it's just, I've been in an accident. We made it smaller because when you're pulled over, you're frantic, you're scared. You just need to see the big button, right? Yeah. And so that's why the big buttons are there. Secondarily, the accident, you just click that and that routes you to the 2 different groups. The other great part is the know your rights and the do's and don'ts tab for the user, so they can learn more about what they should and shouldn't be doing in these interactions, or what they should be doing to not get into one of these interactions, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me ask you a question. So regarding well, I guess it could be both sides. Like, have you had pushback from like the police or something? Like, I mean, like if you're pulled over, I mean, I'm sorry if this is like the wrong question to ask, but I'm curious because, I was thinking about this today and like, I don't know, I'm kind of like, if I get pulled over, like, I'm just like fidgety, like, I don't know, I can't, it's hard. Like, that's why the thing should be mounted and you have the words like, I'm getting pulled over, but like, have the police like made a statement about this thing? Like, what's with that?
So, and I'll send you some links and maybe we can put in the bio. I've done a lot of, like, I was just on MSNBC on a Sunday morning show talking about TurnSignl. And a lot of what I'm doing is explaining that we are not an anti-police app. My brother went to a police academy, graduated from it here in Minnesota. We have connections to law enforcement through various ways as an organization. And what the phrase we keep saying is, we are not an anti-police app. We're an app to bridge the gap.
So let me qualify. Let me rephrase what I said, because I wasn't suggesting that at all. I was just suggesting, like, because a lot of the times policemen, when you get pulled over, they're like, put your hands on the wheels, right? Like, they don't want you to like be moving around and fidgety because they don't know like what you have in your pockets and that sort of thing. So when they see this thing, like all of a sudden like recording, and you have like a lawyer like in the which is incredible. Like, are they like, again, they're like, hey, what's this? Like, this is against procedure or something like that. I'm not necessarily saying it's like an
No. Okay. Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah. So the first is just education. So before we're entering any jurisdiction, we have to work tirelessly to go to the major departments, say, hey, we're TurnSignl. This is who we are, and this is what we mean. When you see a TurnSignl bumper sticker on the back of a car when you're pulling them over, now you know. When you're approaching this car, there's going to be a camera up there, there's going to be a phone there, there's going to be an attorney, and that's going to be recorded. Now you know what you're entering during that interaction, right? And then guess what, police officer? Let's say there is a blunt on the dashboard, and you say, hey, I have to search your car now. Now the person won't scream and say, you don't have a right to search my car, because the attorney will be like, actually, they do. Make sure you step out of the car and we'll take care of it on the back end, right? Okay. And now that helps the police officer in that moment, right? And so this is what we're trying to convey to them, to say, hey, don't worry, it's one button. It's not like you have to type in, it's not like you're setting a Zoom meeting and trying to coordinate anything. Right. It's just, hey, there's a button and it's sitting there and it's recording.
But how do they see the blunt? Like, how?
Right. Well, when they walk up, it might happen too.
The attorney's like, hey, I smell like you've been smoking a blunt. Like, you should, it's cool. Like, they gotta search it. Like,
yeah, it's important for the attorney to have a quick conversation with the driver, either before the police officer arrives or when they're back at their car running things, so maybe know if there's anything that they should be concerned about, to give them better guidance. Another reason it's important to this is my TurnSignl hat here. Another reason why
you got lawyer stories hats too, man, so.
Yeah, I should get a tattoo. That's what I need by now.
Well, let me ask you this. Actually, you must have this. Do you have bumper stickers, like little bumper stickers that say, like, you do?
Yep.
You do. Okay.
I started with window decals, but then I got too nervous as a lawyer because I read the statute on window decals, and despite having them on like every car in the country or in the state, I don't think it's questionable if window decals are legal. So we went to bumper sticker.
Okay. Wow. So like, what has been the response from like other attorneys, like, that you've asked to be like, available and to join the app?
Yeah. If you were to ask a civil litigator to do something like this, or have it on in their spare time or throughout the day, they'd be like, no, I'm busy and I don't take calls after 6:30. But when it comes to PI and criminal, we found that these attorneys are just the ones who want to get and build a book of business are
Savages,
active.
man.
Yeah, they're always going. And I love them. They remind me of us running this business, right? It's people who are really active and really want to get clients.
Great.
And so they're excited about it. And the ROI is great. And what I've heard from PI attorneys that has been really eye-opening is, hey, you know what? Our marketing is tough. It's really tough to be like, hey, are you in an injury? Like, I can help you get money. Like it is a connotation in a lot of people's brain that isn't positive. But guess what you can do as a PI attorney? You can hitch your wagon to like a great mission that we have here and brand yourself with that.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Like I feel like I have so many questions just about like how many attorneys you have in the system, or like how many people you have. And you don't have to answer any of these. Like how many attorneys you have in the system, or like how many people have downloaded the app, for protection. And, if the attorneys get, if they pay a fee per month, which is so super smart, like what they, if they get sort of like upset if they're not getting like the volume that they expected, yet, or, those sort of things, like, are those things that you think about and contemplate probably all the time, I'm guessing?
Oh yeah. So there's now 11 people in our organization. We just hired 3 more and we're hiring 1 more. It's going to start later this month. And we like sit in a room with a whiteboard and we map out every possibility, every question. And that's one of them. But the thing is, what happens when I'm at a critical mass, when I have 20,000 users in Minnesota, and now they're coming through all the time. Now I'm going to have to get more attorneys, right? So we walk through a lot of the comparative numbers that we see and what we're going to deal with. And even pricing, right? If it's $50 a month now, best believe if I have 3 million users down the road, then the price is going to go up from $50, especially if the number of attorneys is still relatively low. And to your download question, that's why we knew we had to move quickly. When I was on MSNBC, in the next 36 hours, 5,000 people downloaded the app from all over the country. And people from Canada and started calling and saying, what are your expansion plans? So we knew that we had to get attorneys on the platform fast. And one of the reasons why we're excited to do podcasts like this, because you have such a great pool of attorneys that follow and listen and subscribe to what you do, because it's so great. That we knew that it's a great opportunity to say, hey, if there's any PR crim attorneys listening, give us a call.
Well, Jazz, also on top of that, and I really do appreciate those kind words. I think it's super cool what you're doing. I always love now, it's weird. Ever since I started this, I love to talk about people's ideas and like how they're entering like a new space. And I don't know. But if you ever see somebody like on Lawyer Stories, or if you see somebody that you think would make a great fit and you don't want to like reach out to them, like cold call or whatever, like I will definitely, and this is what I love to do. Like, this is like the crux of like what I like to do. Like I will do my best to connect you to people, like if you see somebody who would be like, hey, like that person could be a good fit, or, maybe, we need this person out in like LA, like, let me know. Like, I'll be happy to do that, because I love your product and I believe in it. I think it's just such a great thing, especially on the heels of like everything that you've spoken about, like George Floyd and, people feeling more safe. It's really an incredible thing. So
appreciate it.
For sure.
And that's and we're excited the more users that we have. Like I want people to think of, right now, if you're gonna like go to a movie, remember back in the day, you used to call like the movie phone number and like wait and try to like see what time like Zoolander was going to be in theaters, right?
Yeah.
And now everyone uses the app, right? You're using Fandango or whatever app you're using, right? So in the same light, I want TurnSignl to be ubiquitous, like Uber or anything else. I want everyone to say, oh, you were pulled over, use TurnSignl, right? I want it to be roll off the tongue, like everyone, like Kleenex. It's not a product anymore. It's a brand that is taken.
Will you remember us, Jazz? Will you remember our
I'll be like, my first major podcast was this.
Your first man, we're gonna know each other for a while. I have a feeling. That's awesome, man. I'm very happy for you.
I'm excited about it. Yeah. So, but seriously, and to that point, if you or any of your listeners want to be a part of what we're doing, we'd be happy to have you on board. Feel free to reach out. My email, via email, or I'm sure you post all of the information in the bio.
Yeah.
TurnSignl, and it's spelled without the A, so TurnSignl TurnSignl. So with a TurnSignl without the A,
Yep.
TurnSignl.com and at TurnSignl on all the social medias. Reach out. We'd love to have you on our platform.
Jazz, let me just go back to your lawyer story real quick where I love this. Like you said, you went through like your old documents, like through your closet, and like you found you had an assignment, I think, for class and
Ethical leadership.
And you had a personal credo. Can I read that? Like the section that you had in your lawyer story. So this is Jazz Hampton. My personal credo is to improve the lives of my family, the African American community, and myself. These improvements will be made based upon the principles I have gained from my faith, family, and friends that have helped me get to where I am today. I will continue to work with Brotherhood and other organizations to improve the lives of African Americans in my community, and until I am able to leave the firm life and still support my family while I dedicate more time to that journey. That's amazing, man. Like, when did you write that? That was law school. So you left the firm life, right? Like you.
So in law school, I knew, well, so when I was in law school, I was young. So I graduated law school when I was 23. So when I was writing that, I was 22 or 23 years old. That was my 3L year. And I knew that I had already accepted a job at a big firm, and I knew I had a lot of debt to pay off. And setting my wife and I up for success in life, which I knew would take a few years at a firm and to cut my teeth. I knew I wanted to practice law. But I knew, like, I didn't go to law school to become a civil litigator. At the end of the day, I wanted to help my community, right? 5% of attorneys are Black. Yep. And for me, especially after George Floyd and Philando, I was like, if I'm a Black lawyer and I wanted to affect change in my community and I wanted to go and do something, when am I going to do it? And that's why when I was debating leaving, and when Mike and Andre were talking to me, I went out to the garage because I remember those assignments, and I pulled out the old file or my old folder from that class. And I was just reading through some of those documents, and I came across the credo, and I was like, I remember writing this. And when I read it, it like spoke exactly like the point in life I was at. I was like, I did big firm life. I kept working with Brotherhood and other organizations that were helping me. It was like, but I can leave now and I can do this, especially with my wife's blessing, and really try to affect change. And so I'm excited that we have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, congratulations on all your success. Do we leave anything out? Did you want to say anything else about TurnSignl or?
So the one thing that we left out, and I think my partners would be, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, we talked a lot about it as like how people are, especially people of color, are going to download and use this app. But it's grown to so much more than that. Yep. We're getting calls from Fortune 500 companies saying, hey, we want to offer TurnSignl to all of our employees. Yeah. Right. And so the exciting thing about that is we know our user base is going to be diverse. It's parents who want their 17-year-olds to feel safe when they're driving. Yep. It's mothers who don't want to be driving alone and pulled over in an isolated area. Yep. It's people of color, right? It's a diverse pool, and especially with all these businesses that are onboarding and have already signed up to do it. We're excited about the wide variety of drivers we're going to have, and again, that's what's going to help us reach that critical mass of, it's going to be like Uber. It's going to be like, I used TurnSignl when I was pulled over.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. It's so awesome and I love your attitude about it and your confidence, and because I think you do have something. I mean, I think it's amazing. It's really cool to have you here on the show, and things evolve, like you find that through evolution. Like, you started for one purpose, but as you keep going, you're like, wow, like this could help like the teenagers, this could help the single moms, like this could help. So yeah, that's just how it goes.
I know that you go through so many people and talking to so many lawyers about their work and their lawyer's story and where they're going. But I feel like we have to have like a part 2 and 3 at some point to keep
let me know.
Updating and checking.
Whenever you're ready, man, let's schedule it up. Like it's been like so cool to talk to you, and like we're gonna do some further work together. And I'm gonna promote your thing because not your thing. Sorry, I'm gonna promote TurnSignl. I believe in what you're doing, and I think it's excellent. I love that you had a credo. And like a lot of people, I don't know, like it's interesting to think, like, do people go back? You said this, you wrote this in law school, right? Yep. Like, will people go back and like read what they did and actually say that they've executed, but I don't think a lot of people can really like say that, and that's okay because life brings us in all directions. But
Yep.
Congratulations to you. I'm really on board with this, and like I said, whoever I can introduce you to help you, get a good slate of attorneys, lawyer stories approved.
That's
I
right.
will do that.
Yeah.
No problem.
I appreciate that. I think I'm going to butcher the quote, but I think it's Zig Ziglar. It's like, if you don't know what you're aiming at, you'll hit it every time. Right. And so to write something down and to like go chase it, I think is important. Right. And you just have to remember what you wrote down sometimes. So
yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. We'll definitely pick up with the part 2 and 3 whenever you want.
Yeah.
And so everybody out there listening, hit me up if you want to get in touch with Jazz, or you've heard where his email is, where it's TurnSignl.
Yep.
So wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks a lot.